2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Confirmation of the agenda that the North Huron Museum Committee accept the agenda for March 11th, 21 committee meeting as presented. Do I have a mover?
Also move.
Seconder, Dixie Lee. Okay, Mandy.
Okay, I'm just going to go around the room for a call. Member Vandermeer,
Oh,
is she here yet?
Don't see her.
Not yet. No.
Okay, Member Furnell,
Yes.
Member Steffler,
Yes.
Member Luke Hall,
you're on mute, Lou.
Yes.
thank you. Member Arbuckle,
Yes.
David Wall, is he here yet?
No, not yet.
No.
Okay. Doug Kyvenhoven,
Yes. Oh, Joan's just coming in right now.
that's okay, we still have quorum, so I'll go ahead. So that carried. Oh,
You gonna ask me?
Member Heffer, yeah. Was that a yes, Paul?
Yes. Yes, sorry.
All right, that carried 6-2. We can move on.
Okay, thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest. None noted. Public comment, opportunity for members of the public to speak to any item of business on the agenda, 2 minutes per person. Is there anybody from the public? Mandy, you know better than I.
No public members today.
Okay, no public comment. Okay, thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting that the North Huron Museum Committee hereby adopts the minutes of the meeting held February 11th as presented. Do I have a mover? Bill? Seconder? Lou? Mandy?
All right, Member Farnell,
Yes.
thank you. Member Steffler,
Accept.
Member Luke Hall,
Yes.
Member Arbuckle,
Yes.
Member Wall. Don't think he's here yet. Member Kyvenhoven,
Yes.
Member Vandermeer,
Yes.
and Member Heffer.
Yes.
That carries 7-1.
Okay, thank you. Delegations, there's none. Okay, reports. We're going to have 7.1, draft North Huron Museum report by Bill, John, Lou, and Joan. I'm going to let you take away with it now. Thank you.
I think you got me mixed up with my brother there, Paul.
Oh my.
John. That's okay.
Sorry.
He tells me they call him Doug too, so I feel okay.
Okay.
The report then. Bill, do you want to report on that? Give the background or give a lead up to it?
I didn't print a copy, so I'm a little bit fuzzy. I should have printed one and brought one with me. I didn't.
That's a lot of pages to print. Okay, I can lead up then and report then. So, Bill Farnell, Joan Vandermeer, Dixie Lee, and myself got together to prepare this extensive draft. I was the secretary, but actually a lot of the input came from Joan. Her documents is really what formed the basis of it. It was just trying to organize it in a decent order and with a table of contents and a front cover to make it look pretty. And so this is not the complete report. This is a draft, and there's still a bit more work to do on the report. But we wanted to get this before the committee as for review and not necessarily approval at this stage because we still have to finish it off, but for further input is really what we're looking for with the report presented. So you've put it in your agenda package, and starts with the pretty picture of the museum on the front, and then it carries on to a table of contents, and then it has all the information as listed on the table of contents. Has everybody had a chance to review that? Or has anybody, let me put it this way, has anybody not had a chance to review that? Okay, so Lou, you managed to get a look through it?
I read every word,
Well,
and I want to thank, because I didn't have any part in it, and I really want to thank the people who did for their tremendous attention to detail and to the format that I can't imagine anybody not being impressed by. So thank you for that.
I admit I took about 3 attempts at trying to put it together, and I just got stuck. And finally, I just threw out the help to Bill, Dixie, Lee, and Joan, and we sat here safely distanced in the church, and we just looked the whole thing over and just started from the beginning and just tried to say, how would we present this? How do you do not too much detail, but then providing the information? And that's why we went with the appendices at the back. So if we didn't want to overwhelm the counselors with too much information right at the front end and get them lost in that. So we tried to keep the front end of more an easy to read through bit, and then the backing of the information in the appendices. So, but a huge thank you to that group, because I tell you, I was stuck. I just couldn't get past that point.
Excuse me, I think Doug's being a little too modest. He actually came up with the basic format and has done all of the technical cutting and pasting and all that stuff. So thank you, Doug, for that.
You know, I'm glad to serve where it works, but I like the bits that Bill and Joan and others all wrote as that actually formed the content of it. So, but yeah, I was the technical guy on that side of it. I've never used Microsoft Word for the past 10 years. And so I'm a Mac guy. So, but I had to bite the bullet and use Microsoft Word for this document because it does a great job with table contents. So if you like, I'll just start on the page 7 of our North Huron Museum report. And I just go and not through every page, but just kind of pick it off. So we got the front cover there, North Huron Museum Committee report, proposal to relocate and reopen the North Huron Museum in the historic CNR train station with a visitor information center. So that kind of encapsulates it. Beats me why it says, oh, page 7 of the package. Okay, got it. Yeah. And then I'll just look through the table of contents. So table of contents, then we listed on page 4, not of this package, but of the report. The North Huron Museum Committee members, so we listed all the members of the committee. We talked a bit about the history of the museum and talked about why the museum is important. Now, I see there's some subtitles that need a bit of work there. It says Harry Boyle Industrial History, but there's more titles there. So I got to work on the table of contents to be looking proper. Economic impact of museums. So we talked about, I think we just talked about a few highlights there and then referred to the appendix. So a great opportunity, the North Huron Strategic Plan. We noted that the North Huron Strategic Plan that was adopted by the council included the desire to have a tourist information center. Visitor Tourist Information Center. So this fits in with fulfilling that part of the strategic plan. So we thought we'd just throw that in there. We talked about the First Impressions Community Exchange. Acronym for that was FICE. And that was an exchange that was done by the BIA with the Walkerton BIA, where we had mystery shoppers visit each other's town, take photos and give reports back. And one of the interesting points from Walkerton's view of Wingham was that they said at that time the Wingham Museum was open, and they said it was a jewel of Wingham, a hidden jewel. The potential is there. Advantages of relocating the North Huron Museum to the train station. It was quite a bit that I think that was Bill and Dixie Lee and Joan put that together. Can we fit the artifacts in the train museum? Thought we'd just tackle that one head on because without knowing what that shelving looks like and having the addition added to the north side of the train station, you'd never fit all the artifacts in there, and that would be true. So we thought we'd just deal with that potential objection and put in there that how it can happen, how it can work, and give them some photos to try to help see how that works. Then we get on to the actual committee background, the mandate, the work plan, and then we go through the work plan, the project plan, the museum operation plan, governance, staffing, volunteers, hours, operating budget, vision, mission, and goals. We get on to promotional activities and programming, and then the fundraising plan, and then there's the appendices after that. I would like to make a note there. If we look at the staffing hours, that was page 12 of the report, but it's not page 12 of the, here we go. Look up on the right side of the page for the numbers. Where is the staffing? Oh yeah, here we go. So if you're at that page, it's called, this title is Staffing, Volunteers, and Hours. Volunteers will assist staff in delivering programs and operating the museum. The township will provide an average of 1 day a week of staff support. The staffsperson office will be located in the museum/tourist information center while they continue to fill their existing job description. The museum hours will be seasonal, open from mid-March to mid-December, Tuesday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., with flexibility to allow for additional hours for special events such as the Alice Munro Festival. So we certainly had discussion with this issue of what hours is the museum to operate. And so we agreed, you know, it's seasonal. We don't need to have the museum open during those winter non-tourist months. So really from May to mid-May to mid-December covers the tourist season, and most tourists aren't showing up till 10 o'clock in the morning anyway. And a lot, if you've toured around the museums, you know that a lot of them start closing at 4 o'clock. And so we figured, let's just do that, 10 to 4. But one of the things that was decided with the group is that Saturdays are important. It's no use having a museum that's not open on Saturdays. How it is open Saturdays is going to be with volunteers. So we got into some issues about, well, are volunteers allowed to be manning the center without a staff person present? And we figured, well, that's just something we're going to have to wrestle through. Certainly, there's got to be a way that we can train some volunteers with sufficient safety protocols or whatever, but we didn't want to get into all those details. We just said, this is what we want, Tuesday to Saturday as the minimum, 10 to 4. And it's going to be done with staffing and volunteers, but we're only asking for 1 day a week of staffing to support the museum. So that's how we addressed, and as a group with the 4 of us said, okay, this we can put in the report, and then that answers that question: how many hours is the museum supposed to be open? Any questions on that or thoughts?
Do you have any plans, Doug, or the group, for the closed time of the museum? Did you talk about that?
We did not discuss that.
Go ahead, Dixie Lee. I saw your hand.
I think, well, it would be like with the current situation, by request. So if someone really, had a good reason, wanted to come in, it was the only time they could be there between December and March, then by request, you could accommodate them. Right? I think we kind of talked around that a bit.
I'm suggesting, Dixie Lee, just from my own background, that often that time that was closed was put aside with the intention of interior organization and cleaning. And I didn't know whether you had talked about that.
Okay,
Or if you dismissed it because you thought it wasn't a necessary consideration.
We didn't actually talk about that. It was more about, you know, when the public could come to the museum and how it could be staffed.
I saw Doug nodding his head there when it came up about the cleaning, like as Lou mentioned there, and I think I saw Joan or Verna's hand up here. Okay, go ahead, Verna. You're muted, Verna. You're muted, Verna. I can't. Doug's coming in.
Okay,
Yeah, you can leave it like that
yeah.
because there's no noise.
Go ahead, Verna.
Well, it's the staff. The township's going to provide 1 day a week. Is that going to be what was the time? Something till 4 o'clock? 10 to 4. Is that what the staff is going to be? That's 6 hours.
You want to comment on that, Doug, please? You're muted, Doug.
There we go. Okay, that is just the minimum hours that were open to the public. The staff is still going to be there, their normal hours every day. Or if they have meetings they have to go to, like township meetings, they got to meet with Vicky down at the community center, then they could do that before 10 o'clock, you know, or if there's a volunteer there, they could slip out kind of thing, right? Or from, I don't know what the normal hours are, but so we just talked about the open hours of the museum. We don't care, you know, that we're only talking about 1 day a week of the staff person having to donate to the, or like to dedicate to the museum. And we're asking that their regular hours are going to be, they're normally going to be working out of that office. So they're present there. If somebody walks in and wants directions or brochures to tourist information in the area, they're there. So they're the coordinator, and if they need to have other meetings and need other people to cover for them, then they can work those details out. And the same thing like Lou with what happens during the downtime. In the report, we didn't want to get into all the minor details of the itty bitty things of how the museum runs. For sure, like use the downtime to plan exhibits, to clean things up, plan the next year, what's going to go on. All those kind of things can be done. So we just in the report talked about the minimum for being open to the public.
Maybe Joan had her hand up there. I'll let her talk, and then after maybe Vicky may want to say something about that. Go ahead, Joan.
Okay, two things about staffing. The one is we're asking for 8 hours of staff time. That does not mean 8 consecutive hours. That means within their work week, 8 hours of time will be dedicated to museum. And the other thing is for the down period when it's closed, we did talk about if there was something like Family Day and there was an event going on that the museum could possibly be open to be of support of that kind of an event. So normally though, it's not a tourist time and we were thinking it would be closed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Joan. Vicky, did you have anything you wanted to say about what was spoken on the last little while?
Yeah, no, just kind of reiterating, like my understanding is the same as Joan, that the staff time hours, that's the hours over the entire week that would be used, you know, whether it's for assisting people when they come in or possibly sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Assisting people when they come in or doing volunteer coordination and things like that. I know what Lou's saying in terms of the downtime at Castle Kilbride in Baden. They use that downtime at the beginning of the year to do more of their in-depth cleaning. They also use it for preparing for programs, like their curriculum and planning programs and exhibits, as well as doing applications for funding and things like that. So it doesn't just shut down. It's that time's used for more administrative type tasks and things that you can't always do when you're open all the time to the public. So I understand where she's coming from on that too. So.
Okay, thank you, Vicky. Doug, do you have a comment, please? You're muted.
Got it. Yeah. One more thing as well with regards to the hours. It's not that it has to be exactly 8 hours every week. During the busy seasons, it could be 16 hours a week, and then 0 hours some weeks during the off season. So it's an average of 8 the entire 52 weeks, but not exactly 8 every week. It's it's flexible. And we didn't want to. It wouldn't be that the staff person doesn't ever work a Saturday, right, Vicky? Like you have the community center open all the time on weekends, and so you have staff that do work weekends. So we're not saying the staff person might not have an offset week, but that's ready to work out with you and the staff and with the volunteers. There's a volunteer coordinator as to how many Saturdays they do work or don't work, and what days of the week. That's really in your control, Vicky.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug. I think Vicky was writing down some notes there, so that's good. Okay.
We didn't specify Sundays because that might be pushing it too hard. But certainly, if in due time and we have enough volunteers and we get the thing working smoothly, maybe there would come a day that we would be open on Sundays. That's it wasn't that we were closing it off of that. I don't think it was just the minimum we wanted to get. The group believed we needed to have Saturdays 10 to 4 on the weekends at least.
Okay, I'd just like to bring something up there. You mentioned about the tourist kiosks there. Okay, could Vicky maybe help me out that? Would that hours be on something like that? Just curious.
Mr. Chairman, we haven't really discussed the hours of operations on that. But the idea was, to be able to promote other areas of the township, for tourism and things like that. So yeah, I would think definitely, the kiosk would be open during the week when that staff person's there. I'm not sure about the weekend, but if everything is set up and planned out appropriately, and volunteers are trained, they can also provide information on places, other places for tourists to go and visitors to go and where to eat and things to see.
Yeah, just noting that, notice like if you go down Blue Water Road, you see the one open on down at Bayfield and whatnot. And so, yeah, that can come later on. I just want there'd be something when that goes to council so that can be brought up. I think it'd be a win-win. Just my thought. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Doug. I think you're still taken away there. Can't hear you.
There we go. I'm back again. Okay. Okay, here we go. I'm working on multiple screens. So the page that says, can we fit the artifacts in the train station? I was just wondering from the group, was that clear enough the way we showed the photo and the arrow and the little sketch up of the train station and those photos there? Was that, did you find that clear enough to follow? Like if you were a counselor, maybe Paul, is that?
It's clear enough for me, but just explain that those rotating tracks, is that's what's throwing them? How can you get everything in there? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as that's explained, look at the picture, then you'll be able to just explain.
Yeah. Okay, good point. So when Bill and I do the presentation, we'll have to just really kind of spell that out to people. that the photo with the track shows that those shelves can roll back and forth. Okay.
After you're done.
All right. So that's that. So that's clear enough, hopefully. One other thing we noticed was that if you notice the cost of operating the museum, that's up, permanent exhibits, programming. Oh, yeah. Statement. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find the operating budget. The operating budget was actually slightly less expensive than what we had originally talked about because the revenue had not been deducted off of the total. So the total dropped by $3,800, which is good news. So we went from $48,170 annual operating expense to $44,370. I don't know if you had noticed that.
Yeah.
Your reports there. So still to come added to this whole thing at the very end of the appendix, we talk about letters of support. Appendix 8 at the very end. This is a placeholder reminder list. The final document will only include copies of letters of support that we actually receive. And so we've reached out to a number of different organizations that could have an interest and benefit from the museum being present. And so those emails have been sent out, those contacts have been made, and hopefully we can receive letters of support from those different organizations by the time we go to council with this report. And those would be then added to the appendices at the end there.
Right.
So any questions or comments or notes on the report?
Okay, Lou has a question.
Doug, I just want to say that I took the liberty, because I'm really representing East Wawanosh, and but I took the liberty of also making contacts with people that would have been in Brock's bailiwick. And I called him first, and I don't know whether I'm out of line here. I don't want to be, but he is not well. And so I just took on some areas of Blythe and surrounding area that I thought he probably would have been in contact with, and then East Wawanosh. East Wawanosh is not a highly organized organizational area. And so I called a lot of people. My contacts were mostly by phone and personal knocking on the door, and just letting people know what is happening, and that I gave them Joan's material to refer to if they cared to. I have heard back from some, and I have some who were taking that information to their next meeting, whatever they represented. And so I'm just letting people know, I don't know whether there will be many letters from those contacts, but a lot of people had a lot of conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. That's great. You're going out doing that, and I don't think you're stepping out of line at all. Okay, Doug, I'll turn it back over to you. Oh, I'm sorry, Joan had a question. Sorry, Joan. Just got to holler at me.
No, that's quite all right. I try not to holler at anybody. I'm trying to set a good example for my grandson. Lou, I am hoping that once Doug and Bill and Dixie Lee and I get this report pulled together, that you're going to be our editor with a sharp eye to go through it and see if we've made any little mistakes or anything needs correction.
I don't think I can be correcting anybody, but I'm very, no, Joan, I have so appreciated what has gone on, and my name gets attached, and it shouldn't because it doesn't represent a lot of work. But I have done and made contacts with as many as I can in the territory that I represent. And then when it comes down to nitty gritty, if there's anything that I can do, I would be so very happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Hey, were there any other questions or, oh, Bill had something, then we'll go to Doug. Go ahead, Bill, you're on mute. I think you caught it.
Sorry, I got offline there for a minute or two. Anyway, and I did have a couple of comments to make that as I listened to you, I couldn't see you. First thing is that when it was brought up about the new storage area, and I know that my part of the presentation, I will make mention of how that works, because literally you're going by stories, you're going height as well as width and length. So you've got 3 dimensions instead of 2, and that's why we can fit everything in there. I do think perhaps we do need to do a little more work on the hours and volunteers, that kind of thing, just to fill out that. We try and answer questions before they're asked. And thank you so much for stepping in, Lou, and taking care of Blythe for us. I do appreciate that. That was an area that we were not too familiar with, so thank you.
Okay, Verna, you had your hand up next, first. On mute, Verna.
Oh, shoot.
There's a pointed area.
Yeah, you got it.
A point. Am I still on mute?
Yeah, no, you're okay. We hear you.
Okay. On the diagram, there's a white area. What is that all about?
Sorry, go say what area did you say?
It's on the train station. The rest of it is all darkened in. It's a white area, and I'm wondering what that's all about. Why does that make a difference? Oh, here comes the boss.
And Doug over. I'm not sure what you mean there, Verna, but that's
This area.
I do.
Put it in for.
Oh, it's the way it worked out. I couldn't control it. It doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
No.
Okay. Doesn't mean anything. It's okay.
I've been wearing a mask there.
okay. Lou, you had a question?
Just when we're talking for Bill or for Doug, just tell me how that storage area, where we access it from the main building.
Go ahead, Doug, you explain that, please.
There's a doorway.
Going out and looking at the train track?
Yes. Doug, you're on mute.
There we go. Yeah, Lou, there's a hallway that joins the original train station to the 30 by 40 building.
That's where my Alice Minot room is.
But Doug, how much of the side deck area will it absorb?
Like it'll just be like a 6 foot wide hallway that joins together. So what do you mean by the deck area?
Where the train would have come up and where the wagons would have been and where the unloading would have gone on. How much of this building absorbs that space?
I would say the 30 by 40 footprint of it would be a bunch of it.
And Doug, will there be an adjacent door to allow you to go out onto the deck aside from the building where the artifacts are?
It could probably be worked into it. Yeah, we never thought about those kind of details.
I don't call them details. I think that's going to be part of your programming. And I worry about that. I think I've asked that before. And I mean, I know you have a plan and I have a different one in my head. And so I'm just asking it now so you can explain to me in case a counselor asks you.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
You got someone with a hand up here.
Bill, you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
Lou, I think that might be I'm sure that will be part of whenever we get into the process of designing the space to reflect the museum status of it. It'll change it somewhat. And an architect would help us come up with a design meeting our needs, whatever that might be. And if that means a deck, so you know what I mean? I think that's what we'll wait. We have to get approval first. Am I right in thinking that?
Go ahead.
Approval from whom, Bill?
The North Huron Council that we are moving.
Oh, I know all of that business, but once they've approved, then I'm just saying, knowing that that building is going to be moved and accommodate the artifacts and allow the public to go into it, I'm just worried about the option of programming using the original building and its surrounding land.
So noted. We'll make sure that gets into the discussion at that point for sure.
Thank you, Bill. Verna, you had your hand up, please. And you're muted.
You're muted. You got to press the little button.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, that space is where I want the Alice Munro dining tea room in there. And actually, I think this whole thing will take us out pretty well to the trail, will it not?
Okay. Yeah, I put stakes in the ground at one point in time as to where the footprint of it would fit to make sure that it has proper setback from the trail, like within the building permit requirements. So yeah, so it'll be, whatever the required distance is away from the trail. And like, I think Lou and Bill and all of you bring up a really good point. If this is approved by council, right, then we're into a next phase. We're into a fundraising phase, but at the same time, while the fundraising stage is going on, we could start having meetings with the architect. If that architect is, help me out.
From Blythe.
Blythe, yes.
Rutledge.
John Rutledge. John Rutledge. How could I forget John? So if John Rutledge is, and I'm hoping he might even do it as a pro bono thing, then there'd be a meeting. And Verna and everybody else that has, and Bill, all those Dixie Lee that have an interest in the design of the museum ultimately can then have input and discussion, because, what you see there is just a quick sketch. It's not been thought through, but it's not cast in stone either. Then I think what you're saying, what you're bringing up is really important, that there be some real lengthy thought and process into what's this actually going to be when we start getting down to finer details. Because Verna has pegged me multiple times wanting to have a Alice Munro tea room, lots of glass and stuff. And
Yes.
And Lou, you've talked about the platform, and Bill has other ideas. So I'm sure everybody's got ideas. So then it'll be a matter of trying to formulate and plan this whole thing out in much greater detail. And those plans will take, but we'll have a whole year basically to do that, in my opinion, because it'll take that long to raise the funds.
Go ahead, Lou.
Well, I think one of the things, Doug, that quickly comes to my mind is one of the positive aspects of selling it to council and why it should be moved from the post office to the new setting is its availability and access to trails and to the outside. And I'm just saying, I hope we will be cautious enough not to in any way go ahead with other things that take away the opportunity to make use of the fact that this was a train station and the train tracks are there. And it seems to me that that's going to be one of your Pounce programs, is going to be the telling of the story of the train.
Yep.
And so I'm sure, Doug, you're way ahead of me, but
No.
I've got to sometimes speak my mind before all of a sudden I look and say, oh my gosh, that opportunity's gone.
Well, notes well taken there.
Yeah.
Doug, did you want to respond?
No, yeah, no, I was just gonna say, Bill, I hope you're taking good notes here, so. So, like, no question about it, that is not my area of expertise, but that's why it's a team effort. Why, the whole team has the different facets of input and their expertise, and so I confess that the area, those sort of important points, they go by me, but I help in some areas, and different people have their different points, and together we will come up with an amazing museum.
Yes. Go ahead, Verna.
Well, I'm sure the council is also going to want to move the cannon down there too. So we're going to have to look at a spot where the cannon's going to go.
Oh, the
Because
cannon.
it's sitting on the property that if they want to sell it, they'll want to get rid of the cannon as well.
Yeah. Dixie Lee, go ahead.
That also applies to the garden. When council decides what to do with the property, the Ellis Meadow Garden has to be taken into account somehow, just like the cannon.
Understandably, yes. I think that can come up a bit later, but I know what you mean there, Dixie Lee. Yeah. There's just all these little things, and they're going to just keep escalating, I guess you'd say. Okay. Now, anything else right now, or can I go back to Doug? Okay, go ahead, Doug. Oh, you're on mute, Doug.
I'm used to Zoom. It doesn't do that to you. This WebEx thing is interesting. Anyway, what I was going to say then is, like, the document's out there, and as you read it through, if you're rereading it and you see something you think, oh, that could just be tweaked, or maybe we should mention that, just open up your email and fire an email through to me. And then I can take that into account. A bunch of stuff that's in the report came by way of emails just the last few days of the report. So as you're reading through anything you see, you go, what about if we worded it that way or said that? Then just copy the piece of text there and paste it into the email, and then show what you think it should be revised to, and then send it over. And then I think then Dixie Lee and Bill and Joan and myself would review that and keep on building this document until it's the final version that we're all happy with.
Right. Just before you carry on, Doug, Lou had a question there, please.
Can you make just one statement, Doug, as to what you plan to do with this in terms of its presentation to council? Are you just going to give everybody there a copy? Are they going to have a copy in advance so they have had a chance to read it? Are you going to go through it page by page and give them an idea of why that page is there? Can you just make a statement so that
Hello, Lou?
I understand what
Lou?
you're doing?
Yeah. Good question. Do you want me to answer that, Paul?
Everyone's got a circle going around their forehead.
Okay.
Okay.
I heard Lou completely. Yeah. Good point, Lou. I think I failed to mention that when Bill and I were looking to prepare the report, I reached out to Bernie Bailey, the Reeve, and to Paul and to Trevor Sipe, and said, hey, what's your expectation of the report that we bring? Are we going to have like 2 hours to give you a report, or are we talking 5 minutes or 3 minutes or 15 or what? And really, Bernie stressed brief was important. And so the plan is that this huge document will go with the agenda package to the council members. That's the standard way it goes. So they will have the full detail, and they get that, I believe, do they get that on a week before the meeting, Amanda?
Well,
They get it the
on
Friday
Friday
before the
night.
meeting.
Oh, so they just have the weekend to look at it then?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so they'll get it and they'll just have the weekend to look at it, and they'll get this report, this PDF, this multi-page PDF. That's what they'll get. They can review the whole thing. They can mark it up. They can decide to print it or not. Most of them, I think, just do it on their iPads. But they can highlight it and have their questions ready for when the presentation. And they know that Bill and I are going to be making the presentation at the council meeting. So then when it comes up on the agenda, we would be asked to make our presentation. So our plan is to have a 10-minute presentation, just focusing on all the positives of why this is such a valuable, wonderful opportunity for the town to capitalize on. So we would hopefully be able to convince them in a positive light in that 10 minutes. And then we'd say, any questions that you have about what we've presented or anything in the report. And then there'd be Q&A. We do not expect that council would make a decision that night. If I was a council member, I wouldn't make a decision that night. So there can be discussion. They can banter around a bit, discuss it. Positive, negative comments can be made about it or whatever. There might be some more questions that we have to go back and find answers to. And then I expect that they would table a decision till the following council meeting. Because then they'll have a couple weeks or a month even to think about it. And then they'll make the decision. That's the expectation of how we would present and what would be how and the pace of the council's decision. Does that sound reasonable?
Doug, thank you. That covers it. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of presentation there, because they can come up, as you say, with the questions and whatnot after your thing. But I think it's a well-documented thing that's going on there. But I'm sure there'll be some questions, and that will open things up to other answers too. Any other questions before we turn back to Doug? Go ahead, Doug.
Mr. Chair, that concludes my report on the report.
Okay. Now, so are there any other questions there before we move on? Good, thank you. And I thank you all for the work that you've done with this. Okay, now we move on to 7.1.1, fundraising plan update by Doug, Joan, and Dixie Lee.
You want to take this, Joan?
I can do that. If you look on page 16 of the report to council, so they develop a fundraising plan which will outline the approach and timing for raising the funds to undertake the activities and ongoing operation of the museum as outlined in the project plan and museum operation budget. So the estimated budget for preparing the train station is $300,000, and there's the detail there about what that includes. And we're talking about if they chose to deaccession, what the budget would be, and if we chose to relocate, what the budget would be. We have been talking as community members that we don't think that we should have to be funding any of that or fundraising any of that first $139,175, because regardless of what council does, they would be on the line for that. But we would fundraise the difference between that and the $177,250, which is a difference of $38,075. So we're looking at basically a fundraising goal of $340,000. We expect it would take 12 to 18 months to reach the goal, and we would be responsible for fundraising and raise the funds through grant applications, businesses don't like donations, individuals donating, fundraising events, and donations in kind. And I think Doug was saying that he thought he could generate a fair amount of donations in kind related to preparing the train station. So that's where we're at. We didn't think there was any sense trying to go, oh, we'll approach this ministry or that funder or whatever, because we can't approach anybody when we're not even an entity yet. Like, we can't be applying for grants at this point in time.
Paul, you're muted.
Are you done now, Joan? Can we go to questions?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, Verna had her hand up first. You're muted, Verna. Okay.
So you're looking at the municipality doing the 139. And we're going to do the 38. Is that going to get us the move? Because the 340,000, is that for to help cover the cost of the first year?
No, the 340,000 covers the budget for preparing the train station and the cost of relocating.
So what's the difference between the 38 and the 340 then?
We added a little bit of wiggle room, so we upped it to 40,000, and then the 300 for preparing the train station. So the fundraising goal would be $340,000.
Okay, I'm still having a problem though with the 139 and the 38.
So, okay.
There's 139.
Pardon?
The 139 would be the amount if council decided to close the museum, right?
Right.
So that would be on them. So our way of thinking is that first 139,000 needs to be covered by the municipality. Otherwise, we would have to be fundraising almost $500,000.
That's the cost of the session. This is the cost to move.
Okay,
The difference is 38.
yes,
We add that 38 to the 300 to come up with, we rounded it up to 340.
okay,
Has nothing to do with operating expenses,
okay,
purely the difference plus the 300.
okay. All right.
We all got that. Okay, Lou, you have a question? Thank you.
Yes, I can ask Bill when Doug's not there. When you're presenting to council, Bill, is there going to be any reference to the fact that you cannot go ahead with fundraising until you have a definite yes or no? Or is that not?
No, I'm hoping that's understood by council. I hope Doug could probably speak more clearly. He's our maven.
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I did speak to Bernie Bailey about that, and that's understood. Like that's a given. It's like, of course, we can't raise funds. So I believe what Joan has prepared is sufficient to satisfy council on the fundraising plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Joan? You're not letting her off this easy, are you? No, it's very well documented there, Joan. As we're going along, we're getting these numbers all along, and I see where Verna was a little perplexed there a little bit, but I know that's all cleared up now and good. So for sure, nothing else for Joan. Okay, now, Joan, you're on again, I guess, for 7.
I sure am. So it's in the municipality's strategic plan that they would like to have a tourism kiosk. And I think because we are including that as part of our museum proposal, that the kiosk is in the train station too, that we need to have a motion that the North Huron Museum Committee supports the inclusion of a tourism kiosk in the museum work plan, and further that a tourism kiosk component be included in the final presentation to council, and further that the committee endorses the North Huron strategic plan regarding a tourism information center in North Huron. So that kind of covers us off on our support, but we need to have the full committee support it.
So could I have a mover? Verna, seconder? Joan? Comments, or do I go to you first, Mandy? We'll go to comments first. Sorry, Mandy, you're muted.
Yep, if there's any comments, people can speak now.
I'm just bringing up a comment. I know I'd be asking that. So what is the value of that tourism spot in the train station? Like dollar wise, you know what I mean? Like, does that help offset some of that $48,000 that's going cost to run a year? Yeah, I'm using that as just maybe a little window there that we could maybe get some pull out of that. Oh, sorry, Verna, go ahead. Verna, can you hear you?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, in the first place, I think we don't have a spot where tourists can pick anything up at the present time. We did when the museum was open over here. But I also think if people come and stop at the museum for tourist information, you can have the opportunity to encourage them to come through the museum as well and learn the history of North Huron.
Fair. That's fair. I guess what I'm seeing is that I like to see that how that's going to be beneficial. What value is that to North Huron is what I'm coming up with. Okay, go ahead, Lou. You had your hand up, I thought, or
I'm just going to support Verna's comment, because the one contact I made in Blythe area was the Threshers. And of course, they come for 3 days in September, and they put up their trailers, and I know they like each other and they like to do a lot of chatting, but I have ended up talking to the chair for the oncoming year, and she's from Walkerton. So I'm in contact with Judy Sloan, whoever the heck she is. And I said to her, the reason that I felt your group should at least know about this is they've got hours that they're spending in our bigger community. And many of them will maybe want things to do. And you can either include it in programming ahead of time, or you can have a stand on the grounds. And Verna's totally right. People often pick out the things they're going to spend their day doing, but they often like to do other things. And that you can't have anything better than opening your door to people who are already in the community, spending time without taking the opportunity of saying, oh my goodness, I'd like to show you around. Whatever we do.
very good point. Yep. Bill, go ahead.
I think if we look, and I don't remember what page it is, but the reasons for moving the museum to the train station, several points in that, I think also represent a great place for a tourist center. a visible building of architectural beauty, a lot of parking space. It's right beside trails and the river. A great place to introduce people to North Huron and to Wingham. So I think if we could highlight that, that might be good.
Great. Joan?
So Paul, what I think I heard you asking was what financial benefit would there be?
Yes,
Okay,
like,
so to my way of thinking, if you have a staff person, a municipal staff person housed in that museum, and they're looking after tourists, and some of their time is allocated to the museum, it's a win-win situation for council, because you've got, you know, two things being looked after in one location with one staff supported by volunteers. Whereas if a kiosk was somewhere else, you've got elevated costs, right?
yeah, like I'm hoping that's going to be able to come through in your presentation, just a little wee tidbit somewhere about that, just to hit their ears. That's what I'm coming up with, that there are side benefits there.
Okay, we can make sure we mention that.
Thank you. And Lou, I'm not sure, did you have your hand up there?
No, but Dixie Lee
Oh,
does.
sorry, Dixie, sorry. Oh, you're mute, yeah.
Well, I would imagine, you know, all things being equal, once this is set up, that you're going to find, you know, signage in town directing people the same way you have signage now directing people to, you know, the school, the library, and so on. So they won't have to be running around, oh, where can I get information? Oh, can I go into the library? Can I go to the town hall?
Right. Oh, you're muted, Dixie.
That's all I had to say.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Doug?
Something that's going to tie in really well with that is the BIA is hopefully this year going to put up their sign at the Four Corners by the Tim Hortons. That'll be an LED sign. It's a sizable sign, and it's there to promote things with North Huron. So we'll be able to have a message flashing up there. Visit the North Huron Museum, you know, directing them, you know, XNX 254 Josephine Street or whatever it is. You know, visitor information, tourist information center, and so on and so forth. So right at the Four Corners, we will be able to quite prominently direct people down the main street to the historic train station. We can put picture of the train station on the LED sign. It's a color, full LED sign. So that'll really as well tie in. Plus, then we'll have the LED sign in front of our museum directing people in to the location and what shows we got going, you know, that kind of stuff, any events and things like that.
Great. Joan?
One thing I forgot to mention when I was saying about tying tourism in with the museum is there seems to be a lot of grant money out there for tourism right now. So hopefully that could be mutually beneficial.
Thanks, Joan. Oh, Dixie Lee?
One other thing, with the parking that's available at the train station, when you have people stopping in for visitor information, they may just decide to leave the vehicle there and walk back up the main street, which is a potential positive for the merchants and the restaurants as well.
Well spoken. Anything else from anybody? No, okay. So that's looked after. That's 7.1.2. Mandy?
Oh, we do have a motion on the floor.
Yeah,
so we'll have to
yeah,
finish that.
I'm turning over to you, Mandy.
Perfect. So I have Verna moved and Joan seconded. Did you want me to read the motion again, or does everybody
Yeah.
remember?
Go ahead, read the motion. Only take a second.
Okay, it's that the North Huron Museum Committee supports the inclusion of a tourism kiosk in the museum work plan, and further that a tourism kiosk component be included in the final presentation to council, and further that the committee endorses the North Huron strategic plan regarding a tourist information kiosk.
Go ahead.
Member Steffler,
Here.
Member Steffler? Did we lose her?
Verna, you're being muted yet. Oh, no, not again.
I got you. Yes.
Thank you, Verna. Member Luke Hall,
Yes,
Member Arbuckle,
Yes,
Member Wall, I don't think you.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, David. Member Kyvenhoven, Member Kyvenhoven,
Sorry, I was muted and on the screen. Yes, yes.
Member Vandermeer,
Yes.
Member Farnell,
Yes.
and Chair Heffer.
Yes,
Okay, that carries 8-0.
thank you. Okay, correspondence, there's none. You're throwing me all off. You've all got these circles going around in your head there and, okay, here we go. Next steps, number 9, final North Huron Museum report. Member Farnell, Kyvenhoven, Lou, and Joan. Want to give an updated, anything about that at all? Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, let me just look at that again.
Number 9.
Yeah. Sorry, getting there yet. Okay. 9, final North Huron report. Well, I mean, yeah, that'll be for the next meeting then, is that we finish off the bits and pieces that we're waiting for to round up the report and last bits of input. And then, yeah, Bill and I need to sketch out a 10-minute presentation that we would be making. Yeah, so we'll get together, right, Bill, and it might not hurt to have Joan and Dixie Lee join us as critique, and then we'll see what are the important pieces that we put in front of the council in the 10 minutes that we have.
Right. So I take it you're going to present that to us at our next meeting then? I take that, so we'll give you a,
Saw Bill with his hand up there.
oh, I'm sorry, I can't see Bill on my screen. Sorry about that.
That's okay. This is for Doug and for Dixie Lee and Joan. What's the date that we put on for the final day for letters of support to come in? April 6th, was it?
We had put April 6th. Why is our meeting in April so early, like the 8th of April? Our committee meeting is scheduled for the 8th of April. How come it's so early in the month?
It's always
I
the
didn't-
second week in the month, second
So
Thursday. Yeah.
it's the
Okay.
11th, Joan, 11.
it says the 8th on this. Okay, the 11th gives us some breathing room, Bill.
Okay, well, that was a bit of a concern, how we get
Yeah,
all,
it was a concern.
It
And
is
then-
on April 8th. That's the second Thursday in April.
Oh, it is the
11th
8th.
is a Sunday. Or yeah, Sunday.
Doug? go
Okay.
ahead. Doug had a question. You're muted, Doug.
Mr. Chair and Amanda, are we allowed to move it, delay it by a week because we're waiting for some other letters and stuff like that? And then the 15th would be a better date for the committee.
We unfortunately can't change the dates because they're set in advance. And on the 18th, we have another meeting scheduled too.
The 15th. The 15th, you have another meeting of April?
We would have to ask Carson, the clerk, because all our meetings are scheduled per month. So it should be on the 8th.
Yeah, well, April has 5 Thursdays in it.
Okay. So So is it out of hand by asking, go ahead, Vicky, you had something to say there?
Yeah, so just so the committee understands is that Amanda provides the support to the different committees and things. So it's a matter of her time being available to do those meetings and stuff. So that's why it becomes an issue and things. I think originally we were doing the third Thursday, and then somehow we got off of that schedule and we started having them earlier. Because I noticed for next month, I did delete the one on the 15th and things because we were scheduled for the 8th. So somehow we got off the original schedule. And it may have just been because of COVID. I'm not sure, but we can certainly check with Carson, and he's Amanda's supervisor. So, and see if that 15th can work in with the schedule and how he has her scheduled to do these other meetings and stuff. If that's what the committee likes.
So does that work with you people? Joan, go ahead. You're muted, Joan.
And here I've been chuckling every time everybody else is muted. Haha, you caught me. If we could move it to the 15th, that would be great, because otherwise we're going to have to contact everyone we've sent asking for a letter of support and change the deadline for when they're due back in to have them ready in time for the meeting. Which we can do if we have to, but if we could have it changed to the 15th, that would be wonderful.
Vicky, you had your hand up first.
So is the intent to have the presentation for May, or like when are you looking to have the presentation to council?
Go ahead, Doug.
Oh, I mean, that was a moving target on us. I think we're trying to get in before summer. You know, it's a bit of a, you know, if we knew that the restrictions were coming off and council was going to allow in-person meetings again in June, then it would be worth waiting till June, because our presentation will have greater impact if we have people in the gallery.
So there happens to be a report going to council on Monday regarding in-person meetings. So we will know more after that meeting. Okay.
Okay.
If by chance we cannot provide or we can't meet on the 15th, is there another date that month?
I mean, I think most of us are retired or flexible that we can meet anytime.
I see Berna chuckling there.
Okay. So how about we leave that with Mandy and Carson, and
Okay.
Mandy, you'll be able to get back to us and just slip out an email and let us know. And so any other questions along with that then? Verna, go ahead.
Do we don't really know then when we're going to promote or present to council then at this point?
I think after Monday, I think we might be able to give some information after our council meeting. There's something going ahead is what Vicky was talking about, okay?
So after our April, meeting, we'll know better. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we should know by then, right? Go ahead, Vicky.
Yeah, so we will know more after Monday on in-person meetings is what we will know. The council meetings have been set for the entire year. I believe the next one, or sorry, not the next one. I believe the first one in May is May 3rd. That would be the first, I think it's the first and the third Mondays. So May 3rd, and then there'll be one on May 17th.
Yes.
If my calendar is correct there. So I was just wondering, you know, because you were looking for a date there, like postponing the meeting by a week in April. If you know, you had a specific goal for council in May. That's why I was asking, you know, do we have to, how necessary is it to have a later meeting in April?
Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah. I like, there's a couple of things coming to mind here for me, like an extra month isn't gonna make or break us, right? If allowing, if planning for a June meeting, I think we're into the summer, right? Then that's too late, really. But if we were to come into if we were to kind of in our own minds think we're going to come to council in the first or let's say the first meeting in June, giving them the second meeting in June to make their decision before the summer, that's not going to affect us at all, in effect. And if we think about that with the hope and prayer that they'll be having in-person meetings by then to me it would be worth it just us as a committee saying, hey, let's plan on making our presentation to council in June, and therefore really April 8th doesn't matter to us because we're still going to have one more meeting to May to even add those last letters of commitment for Bill and I to do, like we could do 2 dry runs with the committee. So our next meeting would not be a very long meeting, our April meeting, other than Bill and I would present to the group our draft of how we would, how our in-person, how our live presentation to the council would be. Then we'd still have the May meeting to finalize all the letters of in it and present to council then in June. Then we really got a good idea with us as a committee. Okay, our heads are here. We're going for June. We hope that in-person is allowed. But from my perspective, whether it's May or June isn't really going to matter. From a timing point of view. How's that sound?
Yeah, good. Okay, Vicky, does that sound good with you with the way your time schedule is?
Yes, your chairmanship. That's fine with me. I mean, the first meeting in June is June 7th. So that's fine. I was just trying to find a way to accommodate the committee in terms of that meeting in April and find out what exactly the push was and if there was something we could do. I mean, if the committee is ready to go in May, that's fine too, but I wasn't trying to postpone anything, just trying to figure out how to make it work for all parties.
So Bernard, with you, and then okay, go ahead, Bernard. You're muted.
My concern with council is they will get the report and there will be still more questions that they will want answered. Which means I would rather see us presenting it early so that we don't find ourselves in the middle of summer when we're all going on holidays, having to finish up some more of a report.
Right. Doug, I saw you.
I was just looking. I was looking back at my calendar there. When did you say those meetings were, Vicky? The May meetings for council. When are they going to be?
So I do have a schedule right in front of me here, and there is one scheduled for Monday, May 3rd, and one for May 17th. And then the next one then is June 7th. Those will be the dates.
Sorry, Doug, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I was thinking if the May meeting, our May meeting was early enough to be able to get ready for the second council meeting in May, but it's not. So that we wouldn't have time to pull that off. So if we don't have ourselves completely ready by the April 8th or whatever April meeting we use to have for presentation to council, we would not be in a position to present to council in May. But I'm still, the COVID thing, I'm thinking with a little extra time, it's going to be worth it, because if we could do an in-person presentation versus trying to do it over Zoom, it's a huge difference. So I'd suggest to the committee that we plan on June. I hear what you're saying, Berna, but on the plus side, if there's any chance that we're going to be able to make the presentation in the town hall theater, with inviting supporters of the museum in person to be in the gallery, with some of those supporters being able to speak to the motion, like the public is allowed to speak to the agenda item, it would be huge difference. It'd be well worth waiting the month. And if council has questions, follow-up questions, we still will have the 2-week period. So then we can come back to their meeting, their second meeting in June, and answer any further questions.
So Vicky, just sorry to bother you again, but I was wondering, does that sound good for you for our meetings, doing it that way?
I think it would be fine. I mean, it would be sticking to the schedule then and wouldn't pose any problems on the clerk's end of things for providing support, so.
I think that'd be good if we could. So you're saying we're still going to go with the 8th then instead of the 15th? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
And everyone's fine with that because it gives us extra time down the road, right? So we're fine with that. Joan, I know you're the one that was.
I think it would be okay because we've asked for letters of support to be returned by April 6th. But if we have that extra month and they come in a bit late, we'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. So do I just see a show of hands that we go through with what Doug just presented to us then? Could I have a show of hands who's in favor of that? Is that the proper way to do it for something like this? 1, 2. Sorry, Dixie, are you saying something?
No, I'm just not clear. Are we talking about all of the dates, including the projection to of when we might present to council, as well as sticking with the second Thursday for our meetings?
Amanda, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. So April 8th, we're gonna go forward with that meeting. Doug's and others are going to bring back a draft presentation and then hopefully the final report. And then on May 13th, we're going to finalize the presentation and the final report. And then on June 7th, that's when it's going to go to council. And I think that's the question, is everybody okay with that?
Yes. Is everyone okay? Raise hand, please. 1, 2, yeah. Okay. That passes. Okay, that's great then. So everything's on for our 8th meeting and we go from there. And I take it our next meeting may not be long, but it's going to be a rehearsal for Bill and Doug more or less. And if we got any questions or little tidbits that we can share, that'll be brought forward, I take it, the way Mandy talked. Okay, so scheduling of our next meeting, the next museum meeting will be held Thursday, April 8th, 2021 through electronic Zoom, unless otherwise notified. Do I have a mover? Do I need that?
Oh, you don't need a mover. That's just
That's
what we
on.
determined. Yeah.
Joan?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Joan's trying to get your attention.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joan.
You're muted, Joan.
Muted, Joan.
Mute.
Mute. You're
Can't
muted,
hear.
Joan.
Sorry, I had it unmuted and then I muted it again. For our next meeting, we're going to listen to the guys present the report, but we should be looking at our printed report at that time too, just right?
Yes. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
great. Sounds good.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, adjournment, that the North Huron, anything else that you'd like to share at all during this time? Seeing none. That the North Huron Museum Committee agree that there should be no further business before the committee, the meeting be hereby adjourned at 3:23.
I'll move it.
Dave, seconder? Seconder? You're going to go all night. Okay, Doug? Okay, Doug, thank you. Mandy?
Thank you, Chair. I muted myself there. Sorry, Member Luke Hall?
You're muted, Lou.
Yep.
Thank you, Lou. Member Arbuckle,
Yes,
Member Wall,
Yes.
Member Kyvenhoven,
Yes.
Member Vandermeer,
Yes.
Member Farnell,
Yes.
Member Steffler,
Yes.
Chair Heifer.
Yes.
Great, that carries 8-0.
Okay, well, thank you very much, folks. I felt this is a very productive meeting and getting excited about it now. I always was excited, but now it's gonna come to fruition more, right?
It is.
Now it's getting real.
yeah, yeah.
Believe you me, it is. So, and again, thank you to all you that gave us that report. It was just excellent. Have a good month,
You
people.
too.
All right.
Rhoda, don't leave. I have something for you.
Oh, okay.